speaker, Josh Augusta. He's speaking on patriotism. I hope you all enjoy. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Josh Augusta. I'd like to thank you all for coming. So I originally chose my topic because I thought that maybe I would enjoy looking into the life of patriotic people and what that entails. So that's really where that's why I chose my topic. All right, so I guess I'll get started. Mankind rarely sees dedication matching that of a true patriot. A true patriot will give up anything he has for his country's sake, whether it be his possessions, his freedoms, or even his life. In his new dictionary of the history of ideas, Andrew Vincent defines patriotism as as a quality given to a person who participates in relationships such as friendship, community, nationhood, and citizenship. Vincent highlights that patriots have a strong dedication to benefit the group as a whole rather than the individual. According to William A. Darity Jr., in his article in the International Encyclopedia of the Social Sciences, patriots are citizens joined by a love of country and a readiness to sacrifice, perhaps even die, for their country. From these definitions, one can see that a patriot is a selfless person who puts their country as a whole before himself. Few have earned the esteemed status of a patriot, for the title of patriot is not hastily bestowed. It is a recognition reserved for those whose actions transcend ordinary commitment and whose unwavering dedication to their country has set them apart from the crowd. The life of a true patriot is one marked by strong principle, unmatched courage, and profound sacrifice. In order for a patriot to serve and represent his country and fellow citizens, he must adhere to moral principles. Without principle, a patriot's dedication is wavering, causing him to lose the trust of his peers and ultimately fail to represent and serve them to the best of his ability. Therefore, the life of a patriot for a man to be a patriot, he must align himself with good moral values, integrity, and moral consistency. Such values will foster trust, credibility, and a true dedication to the well-being of his nation and fellow citizens. A patriot with unrelenting principle has strong integrity. In fact, patriotism demands strong integrity, and this integrity prevents him from easily being swayed by public opinion or peer pressure. A principled patriot also strives to bring unity among his people and to help them to achieve their greater goal as a unit working together. John Adams, the second president of the United States, served his term as ambassador of the United States, vice president, then president, displaying his patriotic spirit through his principled action and strong morals. Whether navigating through diplomatic negotiations in other countries or guiding America through its formative years, John Adams stood as a beacon of patriotism. As the threat of British taxation loomed over the American colonies, John Adams, a young lawyer in Massachusetts at the time, emerged as a leading opponent to the Stamp Act. Adams was able to rally his fellow citizens, helping them to stand strong against the tyranny of England at the time, in order for them to resist these oppressive taxes that were being placed on the colonists. In Adams' fiery address to the Massachusetts House of Representatives, he denounced the Stamp Act as a tyrannical usurpation of the rights of the colonists. John Adams played a pivotal role in starting the revolt of America against England, and eventually laid the groundwork for the First Continental Congress, which convened later on after these events. Through Adams' courageous stand against the Stamp Act, he displays his commitment to principle and his unwavering dedication to the cause of patriotism and to the people of America at the time. Unwavering adherence to moral principle is the foundation of a true patriot's life. Whether a civil leader or a civil servant, discipline acts as a compass, allowing him to serve his people to the best of his ability in any situation. Proverbs 11:3 teaches, "The integrity of the upright will guide them, but the perversity of the unfaithful will destroy them." John Adams lived out this verse by consistently adhering to what he believed to be right and what was just. This principled stance reflects Christ-likeness in his unwavering dedication to righteousness and moral uprightness, mirroring Jesus' own commitment to truth and justice. In order for a man to be a true patriot, he must also be courageous. A true patriot has no fear when in the face of danger, but he stands courageously, defending the people and nation he loves. True courage is the backbone of patriotism, enabling a patriot to stand firm in the face of danger and act quickly. Many times a patriot will be faced with a decision he has to make, and often these decisions must be made quickly. A patriot's strong courage will allow him to act quickly in the face of danger without hesitation. Henry Johnson was a Black American U.S. Army soldier during World War I. He was nicknamed the Black Death for his courage in fighting off German soldiers and saving his friend. As recorded in the Encyclopedia of World Biography Online, Henry Johnson lived at a time when strong racial tensions existed in America, which made it harder for him to join the army and gain any recognition. But this didn't stop Johnson. Even though he was only 5'4", 130 pounds, and a Black American, he still wanted to serve his country in some way. So he joined the New York 15th National Guard Infantry with some of his friends. So Henry Johnson and another soldier, Needham Roberts, were keeping watch over the other soldiers in the night when they heard German soldiers cutting through barbed wire. At this moment, Johnson knew he had to act, so he began to fight off the German soldiers with his weapon. After emptying his weapon, sending his friend off to alert the others, he and his friend were back fighting the soldiers alone while the others were getting ready. During this time, Johnson ran out of ammo, at this point, he began to fight off the soldiers by swinging his rifle like a bat until it broke. And even then, he continued to fight them off with a knife and with his bare hands. Johnson's friend was knocked unconscious during the fight and was being dragged away by German soldiers by the time that the American soldiers came and rescued the two. Though both survived, Roberts, Johnson's friend, was knocked unconscious, and Johnson had sustained 21 stab wounds. Johnson was a great example of unmatched bravery of a true patriot. In 1996, President Bill Clinton awarded Johnson the Purple Heart, and in 2003, the U.S. Army awarded him the Distinguished Service Cross. which is the second highest U.S. military decoration. Finally, on June 2nd, 2015, Barack Obama presented the Medal of Honor to commend him. In Joshua 1:9, Joshua asks the people of Israel, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Henry Johnson exemplified courage in the face of danger during World War I while defending his fellow soldiers. Despite being outnumbered and physically outmatched, he fought fearlessly and eventually was able to prevent the German attack. This demonstrated bravery and resolve in the heat of battle. This courageous act reflects Christ-likeness Johnson reflects Christ-likeness through this courageous act in his selflessness while willing to risk his own life to protect his fellow soldiers. A true patriot will risk his own life just as Christ did to save those he loves. As well as being principled and courageous, a true patriot must also be willing to make sacrifices for the benefit of his fellow citizens. Circumstances often arise in which a patriot must make a decision and give up that which he loves for the people he loves. Sacrifice is the very essence of true patriotism, often shown by individuals who are willing to move away from their family to fight for their country or to serve their country. Also displayed by giving up material things and also through giving up their own lives in certain circumstances. Whether confronting external threats or addressing internal challenges, true patriots stand ready to sacrifice their own safety for the well-being of their fellow countrymen. Although patriots often receive recognition for the sacrifice of their lives, many patriots make sacrifices that go unnoticed. Many soldiers will go off to war for 5 or 10, even 10 years and be away from their families that whole time. These soldiers' families have given up their loved one to sacrifice his time and effort and safety to serve the country as a whole. Louis Zamperini was a man willing to make such sacrifices for the sake of serving his country and fellow citizens. During World War II, Zamperini served as a B-24 Liberator bombardier in the Army Air Corps 372nd Bomb Squadron. Louis Zamperini started competing in mid-distance races in high school and quickly accumulated fame for his ability to run a mile in 4 minutes and 21 seconds, which was close to the world record at his time. He was going to pursue a career in Olympic running, and he had even participated in the Olympics in 1936 at the age of 19. In 1942, Zamperini enlisted in the Army Air Corps when the United States entered World War II. Zamperini saw that he had a career that he was chasing, that he was pursuing, and he saw that his country had a need, and he chose to sacrifice his career, his money, his fame, his comfort and safety for his fellow citizens. So while executing a rescue mission over the Pacific, Zamperini and his crew crashed into the ocean. Only 3 of them survived. Zamperini and these two lived off of fish and rainwater and the occasional bird that flew by while floating in the middle of the ocean together. They lasted there for 30 days when one of them did die, so there were only 2 left. And at this point, the 2 that were left were captured by Japanese soldiers. Zamperini was held as a prisoner of war for over 2 years. During this time, he was tortured, beaten, forced into slave labor, and he had to stay in a concentration camp the whole time. Eventually, when the Allied forces won the war, he was freed from this concentration camp in 1945, and he was able to return safely home with his life. John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friend." Louis Zamperini displayed sacrificial love through his endurance and resilience during his time as a prisoner of war in World War II. Despite enduring unimaginable suffering and hardship, he remained steadfast in his resolve to survive, ultimately sacrificing his own well-being for the sake of his fellow citizens. As exemplified in the examples set by these men, the life of a patriot is marked by strong principle, unmatched courage, and profound sacrifice. From the very definition of a patriot, as one whose goal is to focus on the greater good, John Adams' steadfast adherence to moral principles, despite public criticism, reflects the importance of unwavering integrity in leadership. Similarly, Henry Johnson's bravery and valor on the battlefield illustrates the intensely strong courage required to defend one's own country and fellow citizens in the face of danger. Likewise, Louis Zamperini's endurance of unimaginable suffering and loss as a prisoner of war highlights the profound sacrifices made by patriots in service to their nation and in defense of its citizens. Their collective sacrifices serve as a reminder that true patriotism demands selflessness, resilience, and unwavering dedication to the common good of the nation. In the tapestry of history, true patriotism remains as a beacon of selflessness, courage, and sacrifice by guiding nations toward a brighter future. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to show you my product. Stephen, could you come up here with me? So Stephen Laird was my mentor this year. He helped me to plan out and make this creed. I did the creed part, but we figured out ways on how we would put this together, how we would get the words on the board, how we would burn in the title and seal it overall in the end. He and I ran practice runs together and spent probably 10 or 12 hours working together on this. So I just want to say thank you for helping me out. This is my product. It reflects the research I did in my paper, and so I'll just read it. Yeah. As patriots of this great nation we love, we embrace a creed that reflects the virtues of our ancestors. For in their examples, we find the essence of true patriotism. With the principled stance of John Adams, we stand firm, guided by moral integrity and unwavering conviction. For in the crucible of principle, our foundation is unshakable. In the footsteps of Henry Johnson, we embody courage, facing adversity with valor and unyielding resolve. For in the crucible of courage, our spirit soars abound. Inspired by the sacrifice of Louis Zamperini, we give of ourselves, offering our all for the greater good, without hesitation. For in the crucible of sacrifice, our love for country shines brightest. Unified in our dedication to the common good, we pledge to serve with honor, courage, and selflessness. For we are patriots forged in the fires of principle, courage, and sacrifice, ready to chart a course toward a future of liberty and justice for all. to now open up some questions for the review board.
So how did you choose the 3 people that you highlighted for your paper?
So first off, thank you for your question. That's very insightful, and that's a good question. First off, I decided what character traits I would like to choose, and then I went on and did some research on who demonstrated those. So first off was principal. I was talking with Mrs. Adams, and she recommended, Mrs. Amador, and she recommended John Adams as a man of principle. And I was able to just do some research on like courage and sacrifice, and found those 2 individuals and thought their stories were interesting and demonstrated those qualities well. So thank you. Did you have another?
You said you wrote that creed?
Yes.
Really? Pretty well written.
Thank you. It took me a while to get the wording correct, and it was completely based off the paper. So the 3 central paragraphs focus on the 3 main points of my research paper. So, and then I also had to. It took some time to try to figure out some of these words. I read other creeds. I did my research on what makes a creed. So it took me a few hours just to get really started on writing it, and then from there I had to use different resources on wording and like definitions and some stuff like that.
Well, it's very nicely, and it makes its point well.
Thank you.
One of the questions that I had is that throughout your presentation you were talking about moral principles. Can you expound on moral principles a little bit?
That's a great question. Yeah. So when I talk about moral principles, I like to relate morality to God's standard, and in this case, Christ's standard. And I related each individual to an aspect of Christ that they exemplify. For John Adams, he stood up for what he believed to be right and just as Christ would stand for what is just and true. Thank you. Did you have any more questions?
So related to that question was, I was going to ask you to define integrity, because you used that word to describe John Adams, and so how do you connect it? So definition of integrity, and then how do you connect that to patriotism?
Integrity would be like moral adherence, strong character, like unwavering character, and how that connects to patriotism is a good leader who wants to lead his fellow citizens well, has to adhere to these moral principles and has to adhere to just moral principles and moral correctness in order to lead those people well and to not lead them astray. So, thank you.
And right along with that, 2 things real quick. I liked your examples on sacrifice that you gave during your presentation. And you mentioned courage. What's your definition of courage?
Courage would be standing up in the face of opposition or danger without hesitation or wavering.
Just one comment. You mentioned when you started talking about courage of not having fear in the face of danger. You do have fear in the face of
Fear,
danger.
yes, fear's there, but you overcome that fear,
right,
and you act anyway.
right, and that's courage.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right, well, thank you everyone for listening to my presentation. Would you like to see it?
No, what's gonna happen with two of those? Gonna hand
Oh,
them
I
to
think,
school?
I might hand it to the school, or hang on to it.
That would be nice.
I think it will be handed to the school.